Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, Vandy, back on a cover Vanguard deck profile, so we can join it.com subscribe to this story. This time we are covering DZ Set 1 Stoicheia Cristianos. So I sound more energetic in this one because I genuinely did not think I would like Cristianos. Like, as I've been saying with the other DZ start decks, I didn't plan on originally doing DZ start decks for set 1, but then we got some support for them. I was like, you know what, F, for the final week of deck profiles, let's just do them. I truly did not believe Cristianos, especially because his grade 3 came a week later than everyone else's. I truly did not believe Cristianos, the one I actively said I hated the most, even more than Triumph Dragon, who I already said I hated, but I actively hated Cristianos more. I didn't think he would be my second, or tied for my second favorite deck with Triumph Dragon, the other one I hated the most, only second place to Sarvaso, one of the ones I loved the most out of the box. So I was going to get this up profile start because all around this deck is very fun to play, and I can't wait to show it off. So first up today, we have an Energy Generator. Mainland want to ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck. When you ride, put this card into your crest zone. If you want second energy charge 3. Continues may have up to 10 energies. Auto at the beginning of your ride phase. Energy charge 3 and act once per turn. Energy boss 7 draw a card. Okay, you will never use that energy boss 7 to draw a card. It's not even because like I've been saying with the other ones where because the Vanguard always takes up 4 energy, you don't want to use that 7. That is part of the reason, but the other reason is you have so much draw power. You have so much draw power in the early game. Though, okay, I'm gonna say this right now. I recorded these deck profiles a little bit out of order. I recorded Triumph Dragon first, then I recorded Sarvaso, then I recorded Ursa Largest, and then like 10 minutes after that when I'm recording this. But as I said in Ursa Largest, in Cristianos, there's some BS you can do in the early game to get so much free benefit in your ride deck. So yeah, you don't really need to worry about this draw, and the get energy charge 3 every turn is really helpful in case you want to use those energy charge 3 or anything and that isn't Cristianos. But yeah, let's go ahead and get the rest of this deck going because I really want to see this. So like Ursa Largest that I did before this, we have our starter that is going to be the same for Zorga, and like Ursa Largest, it doesn't come out till set 2, though we all know it has the standard auto when wrote upon if you win second draw a card skill. Technically we are cheating in using this, and technically we aren't because even the fandom has the skill on it, just doesn't have the art with it for some reason. But if you don't want to use this, then yeah, you can really use any starter because all of them have the same skill, but I'm using Calamity Sipper, even if it is technically cheating, because you know, they have the exact same skill anyways, and it's the same ride line canonically, which doesn't make sense to both me and my friend because we go from this to this to then this and then finally to this. It doesn't make sense, but you know what? I had the weird Dynaline with Spiral Marquee that made sense, so you know what? Fair enough. Anyways, auto win with a draw card again. You can make the next star you want, but Calamity Sipper is the grades that we're going with, and I will just pretend like I never saw him. And move on to our triggers. First, we're going to Over Trigger and Source Dragon DD Blessings plus Favor. Weirdly enough, my favorite over, which now makes sense considering Cristianos is one of my favorite decks. So, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Over Trigger, move over to trigger in your deck. When you view it, as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units. It gets +1 for the turn, and if you viewed it during a draft check, activate its suggestion fetch when you get to draw a card. Choose one of your units, it gets +1 for the turn. All your form gets plus 10,000 power. If your damage zone number of cards and opponents or more, choose a card from damage zone and heal it. All around pretty solid because no matter what you damage check this or draft check this, you get a free million in a draw. Then if you drove check this, on top of the free million in a draw, you get another draw. So you get 2 free draws. Someone gets a crit, either the Vanguard that's hitting or the unit you gave the 1 million to. Your front row gets a 10k, and even though it doesn't state that on the card, it does mean you only get the 10k for the turn, because if you didn't, this would be the best trigger by a long shot. And then if your damage zone is equal to more of your opponent, you heal. So you guarantee that no matter what on drive check, get a free draw in a million, or damage check. But then both times you could possibly even get a heal out of it. You just get so much benefit from driving this. I love this one, especially because it doesn't auto win you the game. It's like an everything bagel, and I love using it. So one of us favor is just a very nice over, and I think it's really cool. And move on to our normal triggers. Run 3 copies of our Draw Trigger and Serene Maiden Lena. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base. Continues guard, so components Vanguards are grade 3 or grade 2, 5k shield, so you know 10k shield. Very nice to have. It's a draw trigger, so helps increase your hand. And this deck does want to constantly send stuff to drop zone. So being able to increase our hand and technically selectively mill. I mean, it's selectively mill in the sense of whatever ends up in your hand, you can auto send to drop zone, but that's pretty much as far as selectively mill goes. But I mean, hey, it's still free drop zone sending, and it's a 10k shield on top of it, and it's just nice to have. So 3 of. Then we have our 8 crits, 4 Spicy Pepper, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power, and 4 Aspiring Maiden Alana, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Critical trigger or rear guard, then battle sheet boosted, put it to soul, choose one music, it gets plus 2k for the turn. If you run into the one very specific situation where you, again, this deck can get a lot of benefits, specifically going from grade 1 to grade 2 during the ride phase, Yeah, from grade 1 going to grade 2 during the ride phase. You might run into a slow problem, so Alana can definitely help fix that if you do run into that one very specific situation. Otherwise, you just have 8 crits for pressure. So all around, Alana's very nice to have, and so Spicy Pepper, you can really make Spicy Pepper anything you want, but I do recommend having the Alana again in case you run into that scenario. So 8 crits for the pressure, especially when you have a deck that can get 4 to possibly 5 attacks in a turn if you set it up right, and if there's those card in Stoicheia that can send grade 3s from Drops on Assault. If there is, this deck is so much more powerful, and I'm just using it as bare minimum. And then we have 4 copies of Cheery Support Elf, grade 0 boost, fitting his shield 5 power. You can really make this any heal you want, but like I've been doing with the other start decks, where we're going with the triggers and the starter line that is the same as what their canonical, DZ deck would be, and apparently the triggers, or at least the starter, is shared, and I think the triggers too, just based off of Akina and Now, which means Zorga's official heal is this, which feels like such a contrast to its actual starter, but you know what, we're gonna pretend like that makes sense. Anyways, 4 of that. Let's move on to our grade 1s. First up, we have 4 copies of, and again, as I've been saying with the other decks, you wouldn't think these would be useful. Really soft for just budget options, but also just good pressure, and that is Scissor Scorpio. So grade 1 boost 5k shield, aka base auto ruin, discard from your hand during your ride phase. Specifically, this is the deck where that wording actually makes a difference. You may call this card to rearguard circle as rest. So it doesn't really do something the turn it's played, or the turn you discarded in Superior Call It. However, if you go first, and I always say that the problem with these decks is that because they cost 4 energy, if you go first, you have less access to your Vanguard skills than your opponent does. But by getting to discard this in Superior Call It, if you go first, when you go to grade 2, your opponent's at grade 1, they're at an 8k, you have this free 8k swinger if you discard it during your ride phase for grade 1, which is all around pretty solid. And then as we build up to it, it's an 8k booster, and it can constantly refill your board, and even though your deck can refill its self on the spot, I have seen it refill its board several times on the spot. If you need to, for whatever reason, because your opponent keeps nuking you, this is a card that can help set up for that moment. So all around, Scorpio is very solid, and is one of the cards for the weird BS you can do while you're at when you're going from grade 1 to grade 2. So 4 of Scorpio, very solid card. Then we have 4 copies of Fragrant Bloom Dionysia. So my least favorite of the grade 1s that do something with, actually no, that's a lie. My least favorite is the Brancate one. So anyways, grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base, act rearguard circle once per turn. If your persona rolled this turn, counterboss rolling the top 3 cards of your deck to 1 grade 3 is left card, you can card from among them. Call to rearguard circle, ditch the rest, and this unit goes to 10,000 power for that turn. So 18k all around is pretty solid, not to mention the fact that it can selectively mill 2 or 3, and it can still get you a rearguard. Again, you can basically rebuild your entire board with this deck really easily, and it's just nice to have. So Dionysus is pretty good, and again, that's originally why I hate Cristonios, because Servalso was revealed first, and Servalso pretty much played like Cristonios should have done, at least when we went for the quick start decks, because they could both remake a board, they could both call from drop. The only difference is Servalso not only gave the thing you call from drop power, but it also did it during the battle phase, and Cristonios only did it during the main phase, even if it did get you 2 units, and it didn't give them power. However, the support kind of made it 50-50 difference. So Dionysus are all around pretty solid card. Drops, gets stuff into drop zone, is an 18k, and is one of the only cards that is in discard fodder. By the way, just for your information, you have 4 copies right here of discard fodder, another 3, so 7, and then 11, and then this entire deck is technically discard fodder because you can Superior Call with Cristonios. So technically, if we're going by logical discard, you have 4, 8, 12, 15, and plus this, you technically have 19 cards that you have as discard fodder for your ride deck, with a total of 11 of them actively having skills that proc during the ride deck discard. Just making that point clear to you. Anyways, 4 of Dinosa. Then we have 4 copies of Conceited Noble Philander. In case the 19 discard fodder cards was enough for you to get your stuff in the drop zone, we have selective milling on top of this. 4 copies. Great on boost 5k shield, AK base. Auto when placed on rearguard from the hand specifically. Boo-hoo, it can't proc from Custodial Superior Call. Took the top 5 cards, you choose 1 card from among them, discard it, shuffle your deck. You don't have to discard something if you don't want to, but if you do, it's literally the freest discard in the world. It helps set up the drop zone and continues rearguard during your turn if your drop zone has 10 or more cards in it, plus 10,000 power. This deck, weirdly enough, struggles to hit 10, or at least when I want it to, it struggles to hit 10, but then when I'm not paying attention, it hits 10 so easily. That's what doesn't make sense to me. When I'm not trying to hit 10, it just skyrockets, but when I'm specifically trying to hit 10 to proc off Philander, I struggle so much. It doesn't make sense to me. But, 4 Philander, free mill, 18k, literally your strongest booster for free because it doesn't have to CB like Dinosa. Basically, if you can get 3 of these in the back row on your first grade 3 turn, you've automatically won the game. I'm not even joking to you, because having three 18k, and that has happened before consistently with this deck, if you have three 18k boosters in the back row while you're at grade 3 on your first grade 3 turn, and even better if your opponent's still at grade 2, because this does still proc while they're at grade 2, you just have so much pressure that they cannot come back from it. Just for a full lander. It's just a really good grade 1 for pressure. Then we have 4 copies of RPG and Honeycomb's Iris, grade 1 boost, 0 6k base, contains Sentinel. We have the front Sentinel's deck on its opponent guard circle. Choose one views. It cannot be hit to end the battle if your hand has 2 or more cards in it. Choose a card from your hand, guard, standard PG, nothing too special about it. Basically, what it means if this and only one of the cards is in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard, which is great because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. Spam all of your Philanders and maybe Dinosa too. And again, you have 19 cards of discard fodder, so by all means go ham with that. But if your opponent eventually counters you or they counter you early, throw it on the PG, maybe you don't have to discard something. Or if they counter you late enough and you have very little hand cards, and Xyrus is one of them, just throw it down and don't discard one. All around, pretty solid. Again, 19 cards worth of discard fodder, almost, and 3 of these are discard fodder, by the way. Technically 4 of them, because again, superior call, and then it could just call something else that you mill. So technically speaking, you have 23 cards of discard fodder that proc from Xyrus. So almost half your deck is just free Xyrus fodder. 4 of Xyrus. If you can't tell, you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want in this deck, and there's little to no repercussions from it, so 4 of. Then and again, you can use any PG, you can use Custodial Dragon, Planet Prevent, they all have the exact same skill. Just choose Honeycomb because it came out close to this time of Crystonia's release. Then we move on to our last grade 1 of them in the riot deck, none in the main deck, because you can Soul Blast this out and then Superior Call with Cristonios, and that would be Seeking Fairy Strobella. So grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, and she is the reason why we have 3 different cards that proc during the ride phase. So auto, when she's rolled upon by a variety of feats, drag and draw 2 cards, ditch 2 cards. So she is Ranker Chain, but doesn't cost a Soul Blast, but she forces you to discard 2 instead of possibly discarding orders, only discard 1, and then continue as rear guard during your turn if you have a grade 3 grade of Vanguard Custodian in this card name, plus 5,000 power. So 13k is not amazing when we compare it to Philander's 18k, but if you can't proc Philander, or you don't have Dinos, or your opponent's CB starving you, she's just a free call for 13k, which is all around pretty solid to have. So all around, very good grade 1. She's nice to have in the ride deck. We don't need her in the main deck because we can just Soul Blast out and Superior Call from drop. So 1 of her in ride deck, none of them in main deck, and we'll come back to her in a second to reveal this go when we get to Variety Feast. Now we move on to our grade 2s. 3 copies of one of the cards that is important to this multi-discard combo that I was talking about earlier, and that is Sea Rumble Brave Shooter. So apparently he was the first of the cards to be released, and I remember I said in the Scry deck profile we did not have this revealed. I literally forgot about him, because apparently he was revealed before Steam Gunner, my favorite of whatever the grade 2 is for Ursula Artis. Is weird that I can't remember his name, but apparently he was revealed before her, but I didn't like him, so I literally forgot about his entire existence. For the record, if those of you that are watching this after the Squad deck profile, I'm not changing anything in that deck for this. I don't like this card that much. It's only useful here because of the combo. But anyway, Sea Rumble Brave Shooter, no offense to him though. Grade 2 5k shield, 10k base, auto when placed on guards from hand, discard from ride deck, counter boss or NG boss, so you draw a card. With the amount of quote-unquote thinning this deck does, and the amount of times I've seen heal sack from it, I don't think that this deck will run into a CB problem consistently, and even if it does run into a CB problem consistently for you, because maybe you're not as lucky, I promise you, you will only use this, you will only need to use this the 1 turn that you're actively pulling off that 3-card combo. And then auto one placed on rear guard circle. The only time you will ever use this skill is you're playing against a board nuke deck and you have no other choice but to play this to get back your board. Counter blast 1 or energy blast 3 if your persona rolled this turn. Choose a grade 2 less Normina from your drop zone with a different card name from itself without Sentinel, or an order card from your drop zone. Put it to your hand and choose a card from your hand, discard it. It's a good skill, but the fact that it has to put it to your hand and automatically discard, that means if that's the only card in your hand, you automatically gotta ditch it. So this argument is pretty much if you have no better options and you really need to use it, you use it, but you mainly only use it for the skill to help increase guard power in worst case scenarios, but also the triple card combo, which again, we're about to get to. So 3 of Brave Shooter. So solid grade 2, but not really amazing. Then we move on to 4 copies of Love Binding Maiden Margaret. Grade 2 is a 5k shield, 10k base, auto when she's discard from hand during your ride phase, Soul Boss 1, bot deck, or draw a card. Cool, she replaces herself because we want more cards in drop zone for Philander to obviously proc off, so being able to bot deck herself is kind of annoying, but she just Soul Blasts out to replace it. Strobella, by the way, is your first target, and then you get a free draw to replace her for the ride deck, and then always she's placed on rear guard circle, whether it's from drop zone, hand, deck, whether it's superior call, normal call. If you persona rolled that turn, CB1, your opponent cannot intercept end of turn, and all your opponent's from rear guards cannot stand during the next stand phase. So if you have the free CB and you just want to lock down your opponent, you very much can, just nullifying the intercepts, nullifying the stand, and again, she is part of the 3-card combo that we use to get a bunch of benefit. If you can't already tell, we pretty much have the cards here. In fact, I'll go ahead and go over it. You ride from Strobella into Variety Fest while these 3 are in your hand. You proceed to use a Strobella skill. By the way, this is what you discard for Ride deck. Then you proceed to use Strobella skill during the Ride phase to draw 2, ditch 2, and now in the order that you use them, it's completely up to you for Scorpio and Brave Shooter and Margaret, but pretty much the point is you proc off 3 cards, technically 4 cards, all at once, and you just get so much benefit out of it, and it's so stupid, and you deck thin so much, so it's just very fun to use. And then we move on to our other grade 2s. We have 4 copies of Battle Siren and Philonatia, so grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Honor is placed on rear guard circle from the drop zone. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Cristianos in his card name, she'll get plus 10,000 power for that turn. So arm pretty solid, 20k. Again, the reason why I used to not like Cristianos very much because it shared a lot of skills with Sarvaso. Literally, Sarvaso has a card that works the exact same way, except apparently the difference is Sarvaso's card doesn't require Sarvaso. This one does require Cristianos, but free 10k when placed from drop. When you're setting up for your second grade 3 turn, this is typically your call target. Actually, scratch that. This is your call target half the time. So I mean, you really only call her if you, by some miracle of God, out of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 6 draws that you did this entire game so far, didn't see Servan, which is pretty unlikely, or not including your mulligan and your normal draw and possible damage triggers. But point is, in case you haven't seen Servan yet, you pretty much call Philantia to get 20k. So still a very solid grade 2. It's just good to have. It's a 4. By the way, with this deck, you don't need to go on the defensive. The deck can kind of handle itself if you can't tell with the extra draws. Then move on to our grade 2, our last grade 2. One of in the Ride deck, none in the main deck, because again, we really focus on the offense here. If you really need to focus on the defense, you normally Soul Blast out Strobella with Margaret, but if you really need to focus on the defense that game, you Soul Blast out Variety if you can, and then you just Superior Call it with Cristonios. And then I guess that's the other reason you call Philonatia over Servan for the extra 5k, but typically you focus on the offense. But anyways, Variety Feast Dragon at 1 copy, because again, like Strobella over here, it can be Superior Call from drop zone after you Soul Blast out with Margaret. So grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base, auto and Rotopon by a grade 3 card Strobell's card name. Choose a grade 1 less card from your drop zone, may call it to rear guard circle. Okay, so if you discarded a Philander early, or you Soul Blasted out Strobella, or you ditched a Dionysia early, you just Superior Call it. Or if you've just been spamming triggers left, right, and center for defending, you can just Superior Call one of them, worst case scenario. So pretty much your entire drop zone acts as a Variety Feast on legs, and then continues guard circle, opponent's Vanguards are grade 3, your Vanguards are grade 3, Cristianos' card name, plus 10,000 shield, so 15k shield. Again, typically you're not going to use that, but if you do need to use it for the defense, you definitely can. But cool, free Superior Call that inherently sets up the dumbest loop of events I have ever seen in my entire life. And again, specifically because this has to be discarded for the Ride deck for his skill, you have to ditch him for Ride deck when going from Strobella into Variety Feast. But then when Strobella does the discard, because this can be discarded during Ride phase, you discard Margaret and Scorpio to get the rear guards and the extra draws. It's just a dumb loop of events, and it's so fun and satisfying to pull off. So whenever the Ride deck or Variety Feast, not in the main deck, again, it can Superior Call it via, or you can get into drop zone via either Margaret or Sarvan and then Superior Call it with Cristonios, or it also when you just Rotopon with Cristonios, you get a free rear guard of your choice pretty much. So one of in the Ride deck, none in the main deck. Then we move on to our grade 3s, 4 copies of Conspiring Hunter Sevron. So grade 3 10% 30k base. The grade 3 I had the least amount of hope for when revealed, because again, it came out a week later than the other grade 3s, and I wasn't really that confident in any of them when they first got revealed, except for the one for Sarvaso, because that one was inherently broken to me, and then again, because I didn't really trust Cristonios that much, but again, I hadn't tested out the deck for the easy side one of that moment. Anyways, Sevron, grade 3 10% 13k base, auto and placed on rear guard circle from the drop. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Cristonios card name, you may have this, you get plus 10,000 power for that turn. If you do, retire at the end of that turn. So get this into drop zone, Superior Call, it's a 23k base. The difference between this and Philanta is Philanta's a 20k. This is 23. If you're swinging into a grade 3, automatically Sevron's a 15k drop. This is only a 10k. So take that as you will. And then the other skill is auto, rear guard, once per turn. When this unit attacks into anything, Soul Blast 1, choose one of the Vanguards, it gets plus 5,000 power for that turn. Then if that Vanguard is standing, if you Soul Blast into grade 3 or greater card, Cristonios and his card name for the cost, stand this unit at the end of that battle. So it's the only grade 3 that doesn't give power to itself, but it gives power to the Vanguard, and you get multi-attack. And if you have 2 Cristonios and so you have 2 of these on rear guards, typically just Superior Call 2 of them. Which is weird how the original version of this deck, when I built it, I just spammed out 2 roaming prisons, then we just upgraded from roaming prison to this thing, which is just funny how we went from one grade 3 spam to another. If you have 2 of these in the front row, 5 attacks, which is all around pretty solid. And Persona Ride turn, oh, these motherfuckers hitting numbers. All around, pretty solid. I don't think Stoicheia has a way to send stuff from drop zone to soul, but if they do, Oh my god, you can search out copies, you can you can search out copies of Cristonios, ditch copies of Cristonios, put in that card that can send stuff to Soul over Philatia, send that Cristonios that you just discard to Soul, play double Severon, you have double restand, the Vanguard is getting a +10 on top of its already +10 from searching, plus the +10 for Persona Riding, automatic 43k on the Vanguard, both Severons are 23ks, 33ks without being boosted. It's just stupid combos and numbers. All around though, even in this deck where Severon can only get 4 attacks, or you can only get 4 attacks a turn, is still pretty solid. It's just a very good card for number pressuring and a very good card for restanding. 4 of Severon, just an amazing grade 3. Then we got last card in the deck, obviously. We have in the main deck, one of in the right deck, what was originally my most hated grade 3, but it was also the one I was the most hyped for until we actually learned a skill, but now is actually one of my tied for second favorite decks, with the only thing surpassing it being the one deck that was my favorite from the get-go, and that is Marine General, the Great Sea, Cristonios. Grade 3, Chin Persona, 13k base, active Vanguard circle once per turn, counter boss 1, searching for 1 copy of this card, reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle your deck, and if this unit goes to the power for that turn. So again, like the other ones, you don't have to add a copy to get the 10k, you just CB1, search the deck, shuffle it, and add 10k. So 23k base almost automatically is all around pretty solid, and then active Vanguard circle once per turn, Energy Blast 4, mill the top 2, choose up to 2 grade 3 as unit cards from among them, not from among them, but from the drop zone in general. If it was from among them, that skill would be so much worse. But choose any 2 grade 3 unit cards from the drop zone, call into rear guard circle. So all around pretty solid. This deck was literally the definition of let it cook, because that's the first time I have ever used that sentence. I realize I've used slang a lot more than I normally do. I wonder what happened. I used to not use slang. But anyways, being able to superior call is pretty solid. He gets 2 rear guards, and something I've learned just from playing this deck, at least for me, do not do the search first. Do the mill first. I don't know why, but at least when I play with this deck, if I do the search first, I will automatically mill 2 triggers. Typically a heal and a crit, and sometimes it'll just be double crits outright. One time it was double heal when I specifically needed heals to survive, and the deck pretty much gave me the middle finger. So I recommend, if you're anything like me, use the mill skill first, then use the search. If you're trust me, you shouldn't be worried about losing out on the copy of Cristonios. Again, if you're like me, because you're gonna want the double triggers. But that's just how it is for me. I literally noticed that. Like, you can go watch each of those videos and you can see that when I did the search, it actually effed me over more if I did the search first compared to the mill. But anyways, around the pretty solid skill, gets rear guards, this mofo, and then, free 10k in a search, which is all around pretty solid. And without further ado, I'm just going to hear, hope you guys enjoy. All around, this deck is very fun to play. It went from being my least favorite in terms of just how it played and basically being Zorga without the order spam, to has the dumbest grade 1 to grade 2, not even turn, just going from grade 1 to grade 2 move I have ever seen in my entire life. It rushes so easily. Once you get to grade 3, it's physically impossible to keep this deck without rear guards. I have seen it come back from everything. And you have, like, if you set up the back row of Philanders before your opponent gets to grade 3, or at least you get them on first grade 3 turn, you have so much pressure, then they're going to hate having to come back from that. And if by some miracle of God there is a Stoicheia grade 2, or Stoicheia card in general, that can send drop zone cards of any unit, preferably units, into Soul, that are hopefully grade 3, put it in over Philatia, and then suddenly we have instant restand while the opponent's at grade 2. So without further ado, I'm getting this one here because I enjoyed. This is one of my favorite decks coming out of the start decks, and it's just so fun to play. So hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't set up your Vanguards.